And so Becky sat down again, and so she and Sarah were friends. Nobody knew about this, of course. Rich little girls at Miss Minchin's school did not make friends with servant girls, and it was a wonderful thing for Becky. Nearly every day she and Sarah met in Sarah's bedroom, just for 5 or 10 minutes. Becky was always hungry, and Sarah often bought nice things for her to eat. They sat and talked, and sometimes Sarah told Becky some of her stories. Becky loved that. "Oh, miss," she said, "you tell them so beautifully. Sometimes I like your stories better than things to eat." And after those visits to Sarah's room, Becky always felt better, not so tired, and not so hungry. Some months later, Sarah had her 11th birthday. Lessons stopped for the afternoon, and there was a big party for all the girls in the school. "This party is expensive for us," Miss Minchin said to her sister Amila, "but it looks good for the school." That afternoon there was a visitor to the school, Miss Minchin's lawyer. He went with Miss Minchin into her office, and they closed the door. In the schoolroom next door there was a lot of noise from Sarah's party. Everybody in there was very happy. But in the office, Miss Minchin was not happy. She looked at the lawyer angrily. "What are you saying? Mr. Crew has no money. What about the diamond mines?" "There are no diamond mines," said the lawyer. "Well, there are mines, but there are no diamonds in them." "But Mr. Crew's good friend," began Miss Minchin. "Mr. Crew's good friend," said the lawyer, "ran away with all Mr. Crew's money. Ralph Crew was ill with a fever, and when he heard about this, he got worse. A week later, he was dead." "Dead?" cried Miss Minchin. "But what about his daughter Sarah, and his expensive birthday party?" "Sarah Crew has no money," said the lawyer. "Not a penny in the world, Miss Minchin." "Not a penny? She must leave my school at once," Miss Minchin said angrily. "She must go this afternoon." "Where?" said the lawyer. "Out into the streets. An 11-year-old girl? That's not going to look very good for your school, Miss Minchin." Miss Minchin's face went red. "You can't put her out in the streets," said the lawyer. He stood up. "But perhaps she can work for you." The lawyer left, and Miss Minchin called her sister Emilia. "Bring Sarah Crew here at once," she said. 2 minutes later, Sarah, in her beautiful blue party dress, stood in front of Miss Minchin. "Have you a black dress, Sarah?" Miss Minchin said coldly. "Yes, Miss Minchin," said Sarah, "but it is very small." "Go and put it on at once," said Miss Minchin. "Your father is dead. There were no diamond mines, and your father's friend ran away with all his money. You have nothing, not a penny, but I am going to be very kind to you. You can stay in my house, but now you must be a servant and work for your bread. You can sleep in a servant's room upstairs, next to Becky's room." That evening, in the little attic room, Sarah sat on the bed in her old black dress. She did not cry, but her face was white and she did not move or speak for hours. Late at night, the door opened quietly, and Becky looked in. Her eyes were red from crying. "Oh, miss," she said, "all the servants are talking about it. I'm so sorry, so sorry." She looked at Sarah's white face and began to cry again. Then she ran to Sarah and took her hand. At last Sarah moved slowly. She turned her head and looked at Becky. "Oh, Becky," she said, and that was all. That first night in the attic was very long. Sarah did not sleep. "Father is dead," she whispered again and again. "Father is dead. I'm never going to see him again." The next morning, Sarah's new life began. She learned to clean floors and to make fires. She ran upstairs and downstairs, and she worked in the kitchen. The cook was a big woman with a red, angry face. "So," she said, "the little rich girl with the diamond mines is now a servant." She looked at Sarah. "Now, I'm making apple pies this morning. Run down to the shops and get me some apples, and be quick." So Sarah ran to the shops and carried a big bag of apples back to the house. Then she cleaned the kitchen floor and carried hot water up to all the bedrooms. She worked every day, from early in the morning to late at night. She helped in the school too. "You speak French well," Miss Minchin said to her coldly. "So you can teach French to the younger children, but you're only a servant. Don't forget that." The first months of Sarah's new life were very hard. She was always tired and hungry, but she never cried. At night, in her little attic, she thought about her father, dead in India, all those miles away. "I must be brave," she said. "Father always wanted me to be brave, and I have a bed to sleep in and something to eat every day. Lots of people don't have that." At first, Sarah's only friend was Becky. Every day Becky came into Sarah's room. They did not talk much, but it helped Sarah a lot to see Becky's friendly smiling face. The girls in the school were sorry for Sarah, but Sarah was a servant now, and they could not be friendly with a servant. Lavinia, of course, was pleased. "I never liked Sarah Crew," she told her friends. "And I was right about the diamonds. There weren't any." Nancy was very unhappy when she saw Sarah in the school. Sarah walked past her and did not speak. Poor Nancy loved Sarah and wanted to be friendly, but she was not clever. She did not understand. One morning, very early, she got quietly out of bed, went upstairs to the attics, and opened Sarah's door. "Nancy," Sarah said, "what are you doing here?" Nancy began to cry. "Oh, Sarah, please tell me, what is the matter? Why don't you like me now?" "I do like you," Sarah said. "Of course I do. But, you see, everything is different now. Miss Minchin doesn't want me to talk to the girls. Most of them don't want to talk to me. And I thought, perhaps, you didn't want to." "But I'm your friend," cried Nancy. "I'm always going to be your friend, and nobody can stop me." Sarah took Nancy's hands. She suddenly felt very happy. Perhaps she cried a little too. Who can say? There was only one chair, so the two friends sat on the bed. Nancy looked round the attic. "Oh, Sarah, how can you live in this room? It is so cold and dirty." "It's not so bad," said Sarah, "and I've got lots of friends. There's Becky in the next room, and come and see." She moved the table under the window, and then she and Nancy stood on it and looked out of the window over the roofs of the houses. In her pocket, Sarah had some small pieces of bread. She put her hand out of the window with the bread on it. "Watch," she said. After a minute, a little brown bird flew down to Sarah's hand and began to eat the bread. Then a second bird came, and a third, and a fourth. "Oh, Sarah, how wonderful," said Nancy. "So they're not afraid. Sometimes they come into the room too." Nancy looked across the roof to the next attic window. "Who lives in that house?" she asked. Nobody, said Sarah sadly, so I never see anybody at that window.